Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Online Darts Fallout Show. We have just come to the end of night 7 of the BetMGM Dart Premier League of Darts. I am Dan Simpson. I am joined once again by Mr. Cam McFarlane. Cam, how are we?
I'm not so bad, mate. Not so bad. I'm sounding a little bit better than I was last week. I think the full Minehead flu is gone now. We're back to normal a week and a half later. It was a fun night of darts tonight as well, wasn't it?
I tell you what, it was. I'm yet to see. Nobody's totaled up the stats so far for the mean average of the night, but I think in terms of across the board, once we get that mean average, that's potentially the best night we've seen so far in terms of high level performances. To be honest, in terms of averages and stats, the final is probably the worst game we saw all night. But we have seen. Let's be honest, we're not going to worry too much about spoilers on this, because if you have watched the darts this evening and joined us, you already know what's happened. But we've seen what is now becoming both a familiar winner and a familiar finalist as well tonight. We saw a few interesting stories come from the quarterfinals in the opening set of matches this evening. But all in, I think a very interesting night in Nottingham, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was, and like I say, familiar finalists and familiar winner back-to-back weeks for Humphries, and it's all changed a little bit from 3 weeks ago when we all thought that Michael van Gerwen was just going to walk away with it.
Yeah, it's very much changed, and whilst we don't have the technical know-how between us to get the league table on the screen at any point tonight, we will talk through it as we get a bit later in the show. Good evening to everyone in the chat room. We've got Liam's in, Malky's in, and Jack's in. We've already got a few in there and saying hello. So hello to everybody there. If you are watching along live, please feel free to get stuck in the chat room. We'll have a chat about this evening's games and the various different stories that came out of them. We will also again have a look ahead to next week and see what we are going to expect when we go across the pond to Dublin next week, which is always a highlight of the PDC's travelling roadshow. So,
absolutely great. The Three Arena. It's just really well set up for it in terms of the way it's quite a sort of close-in bowl as well. It keeps the atmosphere in very well, and obviously Dublin's just a fun place anyway as well. So looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm a little bit gutted not to be going this year, but I'm sure that will be one that will be done again going forwards.
Quite right. So I think we'll do what we normally do. We'll work through this evening's matches in the order at which they were played, which brings us to a rather interesting clash. And this will have upset a few people's accas for the night before we've even got really fully into the spin of things. As we saw, it took him 6 weeks last year to get some points on the board. But this week, we finally saw Snakebite Peter Wright get some points on the board with a very, very close 6-5 win over Gerwyn Price. So we've seen probably a very familiar sight in Gezi playing very, very well in one element of his game. We've seen a lot more from him in scoring. But was the story of this game, Cam, that Peter Wright managed to just consistently maintain the level that he's been getting himself to of late, and Gerwyn Price's doubles really, really cost him this match?
Yeah. Let's be honest. Great for Peter Wright to finally get some points on the board, but it was an absolute gift, wasn't it? Like he should have lost this game 6-1 and been in the back room still on no points and thinking, how the hell am I going to win a game? And that's not to say he played badly. I actually thought Peter Wright played pretty well. The darts that he rocked up with tonight, with longer points on them and a little bit Littler-esque in that regard. And
not a fan.
Thin, straight barrel as well, that he always seems to play a little bit better with. He looked like he could group them a lot better, and he looked like they were throwing them a little bit straighter as well. It's like 5 180s in there. Last week, I was saying it last week with a ridiculous set that he turned up with last week, that it didn't look like he could throw 3 in the treble together. It just didn't look like he'd get them in, whereas he could get 3 on an absolute pinhead tonight with them. And he played well, and he played solid all the way throughout. But Gezi was unbelievable in the scoring phase, and then could not hit a barn door.
It was a very strange game. I mean, let's be honest. We got off to a very strange start because we had the first 4 legs of darts tonight. As we approached the Desmond, to get to 4-all, nobody had held their throw. We had 4 breaks of throw in a row, but then it was very strange because at that point, going into the 5th leg, Peter Wright was averaging 104. And we were thinking, well, he's broken twice. He's averaging 104. This is something that we haven't yet seen from Peter Wright in the Premier League this year, which is a particularly high average and taking legs off people. And then I think there was there definitely was a big moment in that fifth leg when Gezi went for the 1-2-5, missed double tops, and his double tops hitting. The thing that is, let's be honest, the most reliable part of Price's game was the thing that was most lacking today. Peter Wright came back and mopped up the 25 he had left. And from that point, we went through another spell of the game where we got we got a few holds in a row that took us up to 4-all. And then when Price broke and went 5-4 ahead, at that point, Peter hasn't got any points on the board. The level had dropped from where we'd seen at the beginning. For me, I just thought, Gezi's just going to serve this out for a 6-4 win, but it just didn't go that way, did it?
No, he just looked remarkably sort of rattled on the doubles. Like, he just never looked sort of comfortable on them. As much as he made a joke about it on his Instagram afterwards, saying that he'd had some food afterwards after he'd lost and didn't manage to finish that either, which I quite liked. At least he'd making light of it. There's no he wasn't having a tantrum like sometimes we see from him. But yeah, you just fancied him to do it at that point, and it wasn't like particularly in that leg that Peter Wright had to do anything to break back either. Like, I don't know how many darts it is. I'm trying to count it up there, but it was a lot anyway. It wasn't like he rattled off a 12 darts to break back. It was probably near a double that. And then once he got to the decider, you just thought, you fancy Wright here now. You fancied him being the one that would be able to hold it together.
Does it ring alarm bells slightly, do you think? So in the last few weeks, Gerwyn Price has probably been able to take a little bit of solace in the fact that his opponents have had to bring their A game to beat him. We've seen he has been genuinely unfortunate to turn up and play very well, and he's just met someone who couldn't miss and was playing unbelievable darts. In truth, what's happened tonight, which is very different to what's happened recently, is he's been beaten by, let's be honest, for Premier League standards, a very average performance, and he was beaten because he didn't play his game, because he made mistakes. Does that start to set alarm bells off at this point, do you think? Or do you think it's still early enough in the competition that he can string a few performances together and it all comes back together?
I think so. I think it absolutely is that still. I don't think it's any reason to panic. I mean, the fact that he's averaged 103 despite missing what felt like 564 darts at double. He's
19. Is how many?
It was 19. Exaggerating for effect, but the fact that he still averaged 103 while doing that shows that the game's not in that bad of a place, and it probably only takes next week that first dart at tops to go in, and he might rattle through and go 6 or 7 on his doubles and be absolutely fine. And if he does that, he's very likely to go on a run and win a night or two, which will put him right back into where he needs to be.
Well, we will come to next week's predictions a bit later in this evening, but for now we will move on to game 2 tonight, our second quarterfinal, which was an intriguing match between Luke Humphries and Michael Smith. Now, Luke Humphries coming off the back of a win last week and some very, very stellar performances. And again, whilst again we saw a subpar performance from what Michael Smith would expect to post in terms of both his averaging and his doubling, this again was just a story of the excellence of the world number one. Right across the board, whatever metric that you want to measure in this game, Luke Humphries was unbeatable, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was just really good again from him, and sort of running out of ways to describe his game because the way he's making it look, and this is the biggest compliment you can play him, is that just looked like a solid performance from him. It didn't look like he absolutely went up there and blew anyone away or put in a ridiculous performance, but he has done, because it is a ridiculous performance. 103.5 and 60% on your doubles is about as good as you can hope for.
It's going to take some performance to beat it, isn't it?
The thing is, he's making that look ordinary every week, and that is the biggest compliment you can pay him. That even when his average game now is over a ton every time. So it's very, very difficult to beat, and you just can't wrestle him. You can't worry him. Even if he has a bad leg or a bad 2 legs, he did it last week where he chucked in one of the worst legs I think we've seen of the Premier League so far, where he averaged about 60, and then he just came back in the next leg and just firing again. It just looks like nothing worries him at all. He's so comfortable up there now. Well, nothing anyone can do is going to put any panic into him.
Well, I, for one, was very pleased to see that result, because I did engage in a little bit of business with our title sponsors, BetMGM, with a little. I had a little double this evening.
Nice
on that match, and then this match we're about to talk about now, and it did come off. So I will.
Did you? You won on the old double odds as well.
I did, mate. I did. I had a little. I think
donated to them.
I did give you a little tip off at one point that in this match that we will, because there's a lot to discuss and break down in this match, but that Luke Littler, the match treble for Luke Littler, and granted, just grabbed the checkout, but 3-1 for Luke Littler. Now, pre-game, that looked incredible value, because I genuinely think, and this sounds absurd, and this is where Luke Littler's at the minute, but Luke Littler bashing somebody up 6-2 and averaging 114 isn't the big story here. I don't think. And that's a strange position for us to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But surely, now let's be honest, we've got our WhatsApp chats, we've got our people that we chat to about darts. Who, other than potentially Phil Baz, right, would have picked Michael van Gerwen to rock up tonight in Nottingham and average a scrape below 111? Because I did not predict that.
No, whatever injection he's had in his shoulder, can I have some of that, please? Because it bloody works, whatever it is. Because he just looked like he had no issues up there, where he's clearly been struggling for the last couple of weeks. Whatever he's had has fixed it.
I assume it's. I mean, again, there was no details given. I assume he's had the fairly bog standard treatment of a cortisone injection.
It'll be a cortisone injection, I would imagine. It's not really anything magic, but
I had one a few years. So I had a really bad sort of tendon problem a few years ago, and after various other different things, I had a cortisone injection. And I cannot begin to tell you that after months of agony, it was literally just like I felt completely free. It dissipated immediately, and I felt absolutely incredible. But he's genuinely suffered tonight from. He's turned up. He's averaged 111. He's done 40% on his doubles. That will win you pretty much any game in the Premier League this year.
In any match ever.
Anywhere. But unfortunately, he's got
one leg.
2. because
2 legs. Sorry, 2 legs.
and there were and this. There were some moments of absolute brilliance in that match, and we saw, the Luke Littler got 8 darts into a 9. We
absolutely. Yeah, let's call it out for what it is. That 9th dart was shit.
It was a crap dart. Oh yeah, it was a crap dart.
It was miles away.
But it didn't feel like 140. I mean, I don't know. It just and this is bonkers. But you watch him average 114, you feel like he's got a bit more. Yeah. You're waiting for the next gear, aren't you? Thinking like, well, when does this?
Well, that's exactly it. That 9 darter attempt in the last leg, like until that point, they never looked like threatening one. But the way that he's playing now, you expect him to threaten one in every single match. And as much as he was, and I saw a ridiculous stat that his second visit of every leg, he averaged 174 in his second visit of every leg, which is stupid. He had 140, 1177, and the other 6 were 180s. But it was a really just ridiculous performance, and I just can't get my head around how you can turn up and average 111 and not even get enough attempts at a double to be able to win the match.
Well, but even still, like, I mean, to be fair, Luke's doubling was average.
Yeah,
during it was. I mean,
missed 11 darts at a double.
But you don't expect someone to win 6-2 with 35% on the double. I mean, granted, he's given himself a hell of a lot of opportunities because he's averaged so high. But what we didn't see in that game is we didn't see a blockbuster checkout from. We didn't see a big combination. We did, and we're used to seeing them. We didn't see it. We didn't see him hit a bull. We didn't see. We didn't see the blockbuster moments yet, other than nearly the 9. But there wasn't that highlight reel darts. It was just levels, and the level he managed to get in terms of the scoring phase of the game: 8 180s, 11 140s, just absolutely sublime.
Well, I think that 83, which was his highest checkout, was comfortably his highest checkout as well.
Everything else was a dart here and a dart there. There was very, very little.
Yeah, possibly had a 50 odd. No, I don't think. Yeah, he might have had a 56 at one point, but that was about it. Other than that, but yeah, like I say, it was just really solid. But moment of the match, regardless of anything that either of them did, was Michael van Gerwen's 144 on the second to last visit of the match.
I mean,
we've seen him do it once before. We've seen him do it to Chizzy once before, where Chizzy missed the 9 on the double and then go and hit the 141. But then to do the 144, I think when he did it against Chizzy, he was on 181, so it left him on tops when he hit the 141. But to do it against Littler to leave himself 130 was just ultimate shithousery.
It was, but now the thing I took from that I find very interesting is I don't think a Michael van Gerwen who's worried about how he's throwing and worried about his shoulder and suffering and etc. tries that.
No.
I think that was very much a display to the world that whilst he did get bashed up 6-2, that was Michael van Gerwen demonstrating that he's not worried.
No, I could do whatever I want here.
Yeah.
And
he's not worried. He's not concerned.
I've decided that I've lost this one. I know that he's not going to go and miss another 3 darts here because of how well he's playing. So let's have a bit of fun. And next week, I'm going to bash him up.
I did find that. I did find that very, very interesting. And then we will move on because this is after me, and I shameless brag, but I did pick Luke Littler to win 6-2 a couple of times. I called that one.
You did.
But then I will put my hands up and say, moving into the next game, not only did I pick Rob Cross to win this, but I picked Rob Cross as the eventual night winner. So this is where the story ends, where we talk about Dan's predictions for the evening.
Yeah.
Now, again, this wasn't a game. It certainly wasn't a game that went the way that I thought it would. It wasn't a game it was a mixed bag in my opinion. What we did see, and I think again, picking out the story of the game and things to highlight, we saw good scoring. but the checkout and the doubling percentage in this game was brilliant from both players. 71% from Rob Cross on doubles, which is why the game got as far as it was, because Nathan's scoring was excellent, very consistent through the game.
Just relentless 140s from him.
Do you feel, and you are probably a bit more of the Nathan Aspinall expert than I am, and I know he had to break through in that final leg. You know, there wasn't a lot of breaks. It's not like some of the games we saw tonight. You know, they went in 5-all with Rob Cross throwing for the match. Did this game, and I know that people say we shouldn't talk about him like this, but did this game just become too scrappy for Nathan Aspinall not to win it?
Maybe, but there's not many scrappy games that Rob Cross doesn't win. He's another one that...
Fair point.
Like, you stick these two in a game, and it's exactly what you'd expect from these two in a match. No one ever got into a lead of more than one leg at any point in this game. And it was close, hard fought, and just really good from both of them. I really enjoyed this game. I had Rob Cross to win this as well.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You're going against your lads. That's terrible.
Well, that's it. My lad is absolutely, again, without spoiling things, but we all know what happened anyway. My lad has destroyed my predictions tonight, because I had Rob Cross to win this game and I had Luke Littler to win the night. So he's absolutely...
He's done you no favours, hasn't he, this evening?
And then, at that point, I'm thinking, well, I'd just like my boy to go on and win it now. And then he didn't. So...
No. Well, what he did do is he won his quarter-final match, which we'll move. So that brings us on to the semi-final stage of this evening's games. Quarterfinals wrapped up very nicely. Some very interesting darts in there. So our first quarterfinal, we and again, like, what do you do? What can you possibly do with a world number one who's going to average just shy of 107 against you, and he's going to play and he's going to throw 50% of his doubles in? And, you know, Peter Wright, he's got some points on the board now, and that does get him going, but this is surely the last thing he wanted for his second game. You know, he finally gets those points on the board, desperate to try and build up a little bit of momentum. Hello, Peter. There's 107 average to compete against. And again, Peter didn't play badly. We saw another average just shy of a ton, but doubles, he'd really lost the doubles that he managed to find in recent weeks in this one. And it was just another gear. We saw Luke elevate his performance from one game to the next, and away he flew, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think you're spot on there. The doubles were the issue, and he's had opportunities in there to make this a much closer game than it was. And like I say, you just can't afford to miss chances against Luke Humphries. Like, even if he took those chances, he probably still loses this game. But he's playing better, and he's definitely playing better, Peter Wright. He's coming, and he's getting back to a level of form that we expect from him. But if he's going to do that, we know he's not going to go up there, and I just don't think he has that top level of the game anymore, where he will average a ridiculous amount. What he is going to do is he's going to be steady around that mid to high 90s if he plays well. If you're going to do that, yes, you can win games doing that in this Premier League, but you've got to take every chance you get. You can't be passing up and ending up 1 out of 10 on your doubles, because if you do that, averaging that level, you're going to get beat up, and that's what happened here by just another really just smooth, classy, just lovely performance from Luke Humphries.
It was, and a lot of the chances that Peter got were on his own throw as well. You know, that whilst he's had 10 at a double and he's gone 1 from 10, he's 10% on them. A lot of those opportunities were on. And in fact, oddly enough, the only leg he did win in that match was a breaker throw, which is a strange fact. But again, I think that's more Luke probably just messing around a little bit in that one, and having a very brief dip in form. Because throughout every other leg of that game, he was absolutely mustard, and again, just quite beautiful to watch. It was really showed that in this short format and this tournament format, where the Premier League it's a very strange format, because it's not like we see, and we say players to play a tournament in a day and they play a Pro Tour or they play, multiple times in a day, maybe at a UK Open or something. But this is very different. It's very short form, very compact. And it did just demonstrate that he is finding his groove. Obviously, we saw him win his first night last week. And he seems to really be adapting to the format now, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He just looks like he belongs up there, doesn't he? And I think the biggest thing with Humphries is the fact that you constantly are under pressure. He starts legs really well. Like, he very rarely has a trebleless visit at the start of a leg, and quite often it's 2 or 3 trebles. To get himself off that start, and as soon as you do that, on throw or against throw, you're under pressure against him. Like, you're worried straight away. You're tightening up, and I think we'll come on to the final in a minute, but I think we saw that a bit in the final where your arm's so tight all of a sudden because you've got to hit 2 trebles every single visit. Otherwise, you're gone. You're done. You're finished. And the speed that he plays that as well, he rattles through it in no time.
Right. Well, more on Luke Humphries later because he did make it to the final. Now, the other semi-final, and this was, again, this didn't go the way I expected. And I'm very glad that even though some good value was offered by our sponsors, BetMGM, I left things alone after my little price-boosted win. I thought that'll do me for the evening.
Well, that was the other point I was going to make, where I was saying not only did he ruin my predictions for the night, I also had Rob Cross to win at the end of my little dabble that I had with sponsors MGM on the double odds offer that they've got on the darts on a Thursday night, which was going nicely along because I'd also had a tickle on the Luke Littler match treble against MVG. I'd also had over 9.5 legs in the Smith-Humphries game, which had come in. All I needed was just Bobby Cross to go and win the last game. And Nathan Aspinall ruined that. But yeah, I at that point also, because as we all know, begambleaware.org, when the fun stops, stop all of that. At that point, I put it down and I just enjoyed the rest of the darts and didn't think about having another flutter.
Quite right, and well done. So, what I think, again, overarching story, I think here is we had 2 players meet each other after very, very stellar performances in the opening quarterfinals of the game, and then went in slightly different directions. I think we saw Nathan Aspinall elevate himself and lift his game. We saw Luke Littler drop off, certainly from the first game, and let's be really honest, dropped off from what we generally expect to see him. Now, that was the 3rd meeting. It is an interesting fact. Those 2 players have played each other 3 times. Every time they have played each other, it has ended 6-3. And the first 2 matches went the way of Luke Littler as a 6-3 win. So this was Nathan Aspinall getting revenge on that Bahrain Darts Masters game and their previous meeting in the Premier League. Another 6-3, but yeah, just a more solid than the first one. And, this wasn't Nathan Aspinall in a scrap. This wasn't him having to really sort of dig his heels in. He managed to, they exchanged holds of throw for the early part of the game to 3-2. So Luke, both his games tonight, Luke lost the ball, interestingly enough. And was having to, let's be honest, in that short format, winning the ball can be very, very important. And lost the ball in both of his games this evening, Luke Littler. But for that, in that 6th leg, when Nathan took the break of throw, which is the only break of throw in the game, he just looked very comfortable, didn't he? He did enough. He kept the match on throw very comfortably, never looked under too much threat on his throw. And then once he took that break, it was the opposite of what people say about Nathan. It wasn't scrappy. It was comfortable, and he kept him at arm's length, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty much exactly that. I mean, until his head fell off at the end of leg 8, where he missed a bucket load of doubles, he was averaging about 112, I think.
I was going to say it was over 110. He was on for his best. Yeah. At one point, with a couple of legs to go, he was on for his best ever TV average, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then he missed a load of doubles, which he should have won it 6-2, really. But the best thing you can say about his response to that was that he just went and clinically wrapped it up in the next leg with no fuss whatsoever, which the 69 checkout was lovely as well. The treble 15 and then double 12 in one dart. No, because you're thinking at that point, if he starts missing a couple here again, he could end up in trouble very quickly, and it's all of a sudden 5-4, and Littler's throwing to level it up, and you don't know what might happen then. But he managed to just clinically get it wrapped up on his own throw and get it done. But don't know about you, but I thought Littler's scoring just fell off a cliff in this game compared to how he was playing in the first game.
Oh, massively fell off. And you could see the frustration. But then I think, well, and I know there's some criticism of the frustration. I think it's absurd. I think like you should be frustrated. If you're a professional sportsman, you don't do what you're like. You know, how often do we see footballers miss a sitter and they're furious with themselves? And the same with cricket when someone does something absurd and all of a sudden they like it's madness. Now, an interesting. So it did fall off a cliff. You could see him frustrated by that. What I think he struggled to do tonight, if I'm brutally honest, is I think once he'd slipped a bit, he struggled to get it back.
Yeah.
I think he did struggle to regain his scoring composure, and he once it had gone, he couldn't regain it, and the match just slipped away from him. A really interesting stat on Luke Littler as well is Luke Littler has made more semi-finals than any other player this year. He's won his opening first round game more than anybody else has. 5 out of 7 times he's won his opening match, which is why, having only made the final once, he finds himself in 3rd place and relatively, not under massive threat there. Realistically, he's very much looking like a top 4 player in this Premier League this year. Yet he's only made the final once.
Yeah, but we've said it all along, haven't we? You get 2 points most weeks. You win 1 game most weeks, you'll be in that top 4. And that is what he's doing really well. And he's just accumulating points. He's in where he needs to be. I have absolutely zero doubt that he's going to win a night at some point, if not a couple, because he's just too good not to, and he's playing too well not to. But yeah, I think because of how well Nathan played in this, I think it just... He got a bit tight and a bit sort of when he wasn't finding the big scores, rather than just relaxing and hitting one on the next visit like he did against MVG. I thought it was almost like he was just trying a little bit too hard possibly in this one. And maybe he just needed a change. Maybe he just needs to get the Argos darts back out and just flick between them.
Maybe that's what he was missing. Maybe he needed a Peter Wright and he needed to switch things up a bit. We'll leave Luke Littler aside for a moment. We'll come back to him when we do some predictions for next week, and we'll move towards the final. Now, a bit of a strange one this, because we'd seen 2 finalists who had elevated. They'd started at a really high level. They'd both upped their performance in the semi-final, and then compared to what we'd seen earlier in the night, we saw really pretty average performance from both players in the final. And for me, it was maybe just that composure and that habitual winning mentality that is really ingrained in Luke Humphries at the minute that got him through this game. Again, it was a bit messy in that there was 5 breaks of throw across the game. There was breaks of throw when they didn't look likely to be a break of throw. At 4-1, Luke looked very comfortable, and then Aspinall held and then brought back, and it started to look like a bit of a game. But as he said, it's only a hold of throw if it's only a break of throw if you then hold, and Nathan Aspinall couldn't do that. And from 5-3, it just didn't ever look in doubt, did it? And whilst not putting in the performance that he'd done earlier in the night, I think this evening's winner, Luke Humphries, looked as comfortable, didn't he? For me.
Yeah, I think there was only one moment where you kind of thought that Nathan might have a chance in this final, and it was at 4-3, and he'd left himself on 170, which was a bit of was a poor visit to only leave 170 from where he was, but you still thought, first to a finish here, get rid of this in 6, he's got a chance. Because Humphries was on 261, I think, at that point. And then Humphries bangs in the 180. And all of a sudden you go, right, this 170 has to go now. And as soon as it doesn't, even though Humphries didn't take out the 81, he'd put enough pressure on at that point that then Nathan misses the dart at tops. And as soon as it was 5-3, the game's done. Like, you weren't going and breaking him twice to go and win that match at that point. So I think that was the real bit where I think it was the only time where it felt close, this final. Other than that, Humphries was just in control from leg 1 onwards, really. And it wasn't the greatest performance from either of them. I think it just shows it's hard to play 3 games in a night, isn't it? Like,
without a shadow of a doubt. But if that's the level you're going to drop to, and your opponent's dropping, again, it's just at the minute he's very much in a habit of winning, isn't he? And he doesn't. Sometimes he doesn't quite know how to lose. He just gets through games and just gets things done. And it really was a superb performance. And of course, most importantly, he's gone back to back. And from having let's be honest, a pretty lackluster start to the Premier League. There was a lot of discussion about how Luke Humphries hadn't been able to hit the ground running. He hadn't carried the form that he had at the back end of last year into this season, if we want to use those sort of descriptions for how darts moves from one year to another. But I definitely think now he is absolutely cooking on gas within this Premier League, and will probably, my expectation is he will benefit from the way the fixtures are arranged and how they're pulled together next week in Dublin. We'll come to that in a moment, because whilst I said I don't have the technical know-how to share the Premier League table on the screen, I will learn that, I promise. I'll get someone to teach me. I'll get Giles to teach me, or God.
Giles is too big, as he keeps telling everyone in the chat. I don't know if he's mentioned it, but he has got a newborn.
Yeah, I've had 3 of them, mate, and it hasn't stopped me from getting on and doing stuff. It's sooner or later. Like, what your first one, like, it completely wipes you out. The second one's much easier because you don't care.
Any old idiot can do it at this point.
And by the time you've got the third, the hope is the other 2 can just sort that one out. You
got to wait long enough where the
correct. That's how you do it.
The first one's old enough to look after it.
A few little points to highlight just on just as to where the league's at. So we do have a change in leader. So Luke Humphries, those back-to-back wins have put him into first.
What a bit of timing to do it as well.
I tell you, this is
first players last next week.
We will come to that in a moment, Cam. But yes, Luke Humphries this week claims for now that number 1 spot on 17 points. Michael van Gerwen remains stuck firmly again for another week on 15 points. He's lost 5 darts games in a row. When did that start?
I was just going to say, when did that last happen? So I assume.
Although what we can't point at the fact that he hasn't averaged over 95 for the first time in however many years after that.
No, he well and truly beat that one.
The rest of the top 4 is made up by Luke Litter on 13 points, and Nathan Aspinall keeps himself on 11. Who Nathan Aspinall, again, bit of a lackluster start, has put himself right into the mix, and we've now got 1 point separating Nathan Aspinall, Rob Cross, and Michael Smith in spots 4, 5, and 6. So very, very much all to play for that bottom spot in the qualification spots. Peter Wright is still on the bottom of the table, but does pick up his first points. However, he's still only on 2 points, with Gerwyn Price above him on 5. So if Peter Wright is going to lift himself up from the bottom, he's going to have to go on a bit of a run and get at least, you would expect, to a final and have Gerwyn Price go out early. So Peter Wright still probably a large task away from lifting himself off the foot of the table. And that task becomes exponentially more difficult when you learn that what we do next week for night number 8 to make things a little bit special in Dublin is we take the current standings of the league table, and number 1 plays number 8, and number 2 plays number 7, and number 3 plays number 6, and number 4 plays number 5. Now, what that means, and I'll rattle through the fixtures very quickly, just so everybody knows what we're playing with, and then we'll do some predictions. So what that means is Peter Wright's first win earns him a spot next week against number 1 and current world champion Luke Humphries. Nathan Aspinall will play Rob Cross in the second quarter-final. They'll be followed by Michael van Gerwyn against Gerwyn Price, and Luke Littler will play Michael Smith. They are the quarter-finals for next week. Cam, I will come to you for each one of them for just a straight-up prediction. First to 6, of course. If you are in the chat room, please feel free to weigh in and tell us what you think is going to happen next week. We promise not to ridicule you next week on the Fallout when you get them completely wrong, as often.
Mainly because we won't remember who predicted what, because I couldn't remember what I predicted. I predicted completely different in the chat this week.
I can never remember what I've picked myself, so that's why no one will be the subject of ridicule. So, opening game, Cameron, maybe potentially the easiest to predict for the night, possibly, depending on your viewpoint. But
I think so. I mean, I'd certainly rather be playing Peter Wright. Even how it went tonight, I'd certainly rather be playing Peter Wright than playing Gerwyn Price. So I think it's massive that he's gone and got the night win and got to the top of the table. And I think he takes advantage of it. And I think he beats Peter Wright 6-2.
Well, I'm going to go very similar. I'm going to give Peter Wright one more hold of throw than you
Okay.
are. And I'm going to go Luke Humphries winning that 6-3. Again, I don't think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be particularly, swings and roundabouts. I just think I'll give Peter, if he maintains the level he's at and doesn't clatter around with his darts, I'll give him one more hold of throw, I think, for a 6-3 win to Luke Humphries. In the chat room, Malik, he's gone with an absolute landslide. He's gone with a Humphries 6-1 victory over Peter Wright, which is a heavy one. But let's be honest, I don't think you'll get particularly great odds for that, the way things stand currently.
No.
Even with our sponsors.
Well, you will if you use your double up boost.
You will, and don't forget, you can get a double up boost every week on the Darts Premier League for a Thursday night. Please do, however, gamble responsibly. Be gambleaware.org.
Not only that, if you are of the horse racing persuasion, like me and Mr. Simpson are as well, you can get a little double up on any race at Cheltenham tomorrow as well with BetMGM.
And I know we're in the middle of predictions, but I have very, very much enjoyed the level of bonuses this week from BetMGM.
Oh, it's excellent. There's nothing like Cheltenham for a few special presents.
Well, so I'll be dead, and I know we're slightly off topic very, very quickly. For the first time ever, I have completely sort of gone away from using my Sky Bet, because normally Sky Bet are the kings of freebies and free bets and extras and bonuses and everything else. And it's due.
Patrick of Power is the favourite for the free ones and the bonuses, but
to give credit where
BetMGM this week have
BetMGM
given
have been
a lot of them. On Wednesday gave me 20 free spins for my birthday, which was very kind of them as well.
Good on them. Now, Cam, the Premier League has been accused of being repetitive and showing people the same thing week after week. Now, we'll move on to the next game. In a repeat of tonight's quarterfinal, we'll see Rob Cross against Nathan Aspinall. Where would you like to go on this? Are you going to stick or twist?
Yeah, no, it's I mean, just to throw that out there, I know, like you say, it is. People feel it is repetitive and it is the same sometimes. But Gerwyn Price and Peter Wright played first up tonight. And it was the first time they'd played since week 15 of last year's Premier League. So even in this format, you still don't play a lot of them that often. Stick or twist. I'm going to stick with not the result of tonight, but with my prediction from last week. And I think Rob Cross wins 6-4. Because if I keep predicting against my boy, I can't really go wrong. Because if he loses, I get it right. And if he wins, I'm happy.
Well, I'm going to I'm going to go. I've backed Rob Cross so much in this year's Premier League. And to be fair, he's done me well for quite a large chunk of it. However, I just saw so much from Nathan Aspinall tonight that just makes me think if he can carry 90% of that going into next week, then we're in for something quite special again. So I'm going to go the same scoreline, but the opposite way around. And I'm going to go a 6-4 victory for Nathan Aspinall.
Should be writing these down, shouldn't we?
I'll watch it back. I'll watch it back and make a note of them. Third one, and this I think is and maybe for both of these players, is this an opportunity that they both need because they can't both lose. This is the way the Premier League works. We don't have draws in the Premier League anymore. One of these players is going to pick up a win next week, and that is much needed to both of them. Yes, it could be very destructive to the other one, but one of these players is going to win. And it's Michael van Gerwen against Gerwyn Price. What are your views here?
Don't want to keep religiously trying to pick Gerwyn Price to win and him not do it. But I don't think he can be as bad on his doubles again as he was today. And I thought he played really well at the weekend at the Euro Tour. I thought he obviously scored incredibly well tonight.
Certainly did.
And I think he finally gets that win. And it's not going to be easy, especially if Michael van Gerwen plays anywhere close to how he played tonight. It's going to be tough. But I think we see Gezi win it 6-5. I think it goes all the way and he nicks in a decider.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm a bit different. And again, maybe I am just, I don't know, sometimes there is just something majestic about seeing Michael van Gerwen throwing 110 average, but it was that double 12 at the end that just made me think he's really happy, he's comfortable, he feels like he can do that. So I'm going to go a little bit different, and I'm going to go with a Michael van Gerwen 6-3 win. I think we see the return after a few weeks of virtual absence from the Premier League of Michael van Gerwen. But I think next week we see something quite special from him. Just a few coming in there that I can spot in the chat room. James has gone with a 6-2 MVG victory. He is on my side as well, as is Maliki, who's gone with MVG 6-4. So between us all, we've got a multitude of different connotations of Michael van Gerwen winning, but Cam is going to dig his heels in on a Gezi Price win. And then 3 plays 6, as in the final quarterfinal next week. Luke Littler plays Michael Smith.
I just can't see any way that Smith wins this. He's just not playing well enough, is he?
Agreed.
I stand by what I've been saying for the last sort of however long it's been since he changed darts. He needs to go back to his old darts that he's used forever, because he's just better with them. He's a better darts player with his old darts, and he's just not playing well with these. He doesn't look like he can get 3 of them close together the same way he could with the old ones. They're a little bit fatter, they're a little bit different in shape, and it just doesn't seem like it works for him. And Luke Littler's playing too well, and I think Smith gets a battering here. I think he gets beat 6-1.
Yeah, I'm inclined to suggest very similar. I think that if Michael Smith would have to reach a level of darts that we haven't seen from him in quite some time in order to make this a competitive match, primarily because what we are seeing this year in the Premier League from Luke Littler is that he is a quarterfinal specialist.
Yeah.
Like that, currently, Luke Littler is a quarterfinal specialist, and he can turn up and between 7 o'clock and 20 past 8 be the greatest player on the planet. Now, what happens over the hour and a half following that is a bit of a mixed bag at the minute, but at the moment, consistently over 7 weeks, Luke Littler has been the best quarterfinals player of them all. And for me, that continues comfortably next week. I'll give Smith, again, I'm being a little bit more generous than you tonight. I'm going to give him one more hold of throw than you are. I'm going.
Ever so generous, Mr. Simpson. Always very generous.
What they say about me, it's not what some are saying about me on Twitter at the minute, but it's what some do. And I'm going to go with a 6-2 Luke Littler victory. We've got a few predictions. As soon as we say Littler, everyone gets weighed in. We did get a bit of a late one. Sorry, Jamie. I missed that one of yours, which was a price 6-1 win. Big pick from Jamie there. Malachi has gone with a 6-2 Littler victory. James has gone with 6-4 Littler. Agrees with Cam. Jamie's gone really close with 6-5. Jamie with an interesting comment. Littler is a one dart merchant. I challenge you to find me a dart player that is anywhere near the top 10 for a consistent level of time. There isn't a first dart merchant, because to a degree they all are, really. If the first one's in, they can follow them well. That's one of the signs of a very good dart player. I'm not a big fan of that as a way to sort of categorize folk. But if that's your taste, that's your taste. Right, Cam, so the only thing left to do now is I will challenge you to provide me, as I will do everyone in the chat room as well, with a pick. All we're looking for here is a finalist and a winner. So 2 finalists and 1 winner from you, please, Cameron.
Oh, Cameron as well then. That's
formal, mate.
I was going to say very formal.
Well, it's the final, isn't it? You can, if it's like for the other game, it doesn't matter. It's the bloody final, man.
I'll put a tie on for this one, should I?
It's like what I do when it's time. If you're playing Football Manager, you still put a tie on for the FA Cup final, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, you do. Full suit. Put the tracksuit away for that one.
Correct.
I think we get a final between. Do we go a bit rogue? We go a bit rogue. We get a final between Gerwyn Price and Rob Cross.
I mean, that is rogue, to be fair.
It's very rogue, isn't it? Yeah, both Lukes get beat in the in the semi-finals, and then.
You okay, mate?
Gerwyn Price wins.
You all right?
No. I don't think so, no. It's not the first time I've said that to you over the last couple of weeks, to be fair.
Seek help. Well, now I'm gonna look like Mr. Bloody Boring now, aren't I? When I tell you that I think next week, and if I'm right, you'll be high-fiving strangers on the night bus. But I think Nathan Aspinall beats Luke Littler in the final next week.
Oh, love that.
That's my little ditty for next week. James has gone with an MVG win. I'm sure there'll be an awful lot of people who are over the moon with that. Malachi as well has gone with MVG win. Only that can't happen, Malachi. MVG, unless that can't happen. They're in the same quarter.
He's just predicted his semi-final. I like it.
Gone far too in depth, Malachi, in predicting the semi-finals. Jamie has gone with Luke versus Luke, and Luke wins. And if only our title sponsor BetMGM Darts would believe me.
Yeah, I was going to do that when I was looking at mine and trying to make my decision. But yeah, excellent.
I've told my bookie, I said Luke would win.
Yeah, we'll have less of that. No offence sitting here. We don't get to do that. No splinters in the backside. Right.
And with that, so we haven't managed, well, I suppose our man in the venue, these Premier League venues have woefully inadequate Wi-Fi, as anyone who has attended a Premier League event will attest to. So
funnily enough, the best one of any that I've been to was actually the Wi-Fi at the Cowshed down in Exeter. Their Wi-Fi was excellent down there. It worked perfect.
It was excellent for the hour that I was allowed to access it.
You only get an hour. You get an hour.
Oh, for an hour, I could have ran a company from the place. The Wi-Fi was that
Use
good.
your hour wisely.
Yeah, use your hour very wisely. Download everything and read it when you get cut off. So we will bring an end to proceedings for this week. I don't know if it'll be me and Cam. Could well be next week talking about what's going on.
It usually is, isn't it?
It usually is, you and I, mate. We could be having a chat about what's going on in Dublin. Thank you all very much for those of you who are tuning in. I'll go back to what I was saying earlier on because we got onto the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is crap. So interviews from this evening from our man in the venue, Phil Bars, will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So please do go to our YouTube channel, Online Darts, like and subscribe to get notifications of when all of the good things like this show are happening, and you will see reaction from players this evening. Great thanks once again, as always, to title sponsors BetMGM Darts. Please go and have a look at all of the various bonuses that they have at the minute. It's a bit of a festival of offers because we've got darts going on, there's loads of football going on, and it's Cheltenham as well. Please, however, do as ever gamble responsibly and be gambleaware.org. I have been Dan Simpson. I have been joined again very, very kindly by the wonderful Miss Cam McFarlane. We will probably see you next week. Thank you very much and good night.